I don't know that I agree with you. To be fair, with all due respect, one doesn't have to be brilliant to attempt a coup.
I disagree with that. As somebody who has helped plan coup d'état,
Yeah.
not here, but other places, it takes a lot of work, and that's not what he did.
That was former Trump advisor John Bolton admitting that, as somebody who has planned coups, dude, that you're not supposed to actually come out there and admit it, that you tried to illegally overthrow the governments of other countries. I mean, we know, of course, we know that he had done that, but it's just another piece of just like ballsiness to come out and just say it. And yeah, of course, yeah, cool, yeah. Well, it's different, of course. Countries, not here in America. America's way different. But everywhere else, oh yeah, absolutely. So now, how many coups are we talking? Probably a lot. According to the Klein Center at the University of Illinois, who tracks coup attempts, there have been more than 350 coup attempts around the world since John Bolton joined the government during the Reagan administration in 1982. Now, of course, that doesn't mean the United States is involved in every single one of them, obviously. Nearly 150 of them actually have been successful. Of those 350 plus coup attempts, 191 of them occurred when Bolton held a position in the U.S. government. There were 131 coup attempts internationally that occurred when Bolton served in the State Department as UN ambassador or as Trump's national security advisor. The others, of course, is when he wasn't in those coup-adjacent roles, so they didn't get counted. So now, one of the most recent ones happened to have been the attempt in Venezuela. Remember that? Where Juan Guaido was like, oh, by the way, I am the president of Venezuela now. No, you're not. No, actually, you're not at all. And yeah, that was a U.S.-backed coup, even though, of course, the Bolton and Trump administration, no, we didn't have anything to do with that, even though we absolutely supported them. Right, okay. So now, besides the invasion of Afghanistan, getting back to how many coups he could have been involved in, perhaps the most significant coup tracked by the Klein Center's Coup d'etat project was the March 2004 removal of Jean-Bertrand Aristide as the president of Haiti. So now that one, again, given how Haiti has been an absolute mess for some time, we just had the assassination not too long ago of U.S.-backed President Jovenel Moïse that I reported on. You remember that. So now, interestingly enough, again, 2004, the U.S. backed that coup in Haiti. In fact, one of the reasons that, the U.S. has been alleged to have been, even though, of course, the United States denies it and Europe also denies it, but Aristide had been trying to get reparations from France over being enslaved. So, look, Haitians 200 years ago revolted against French rule and were able to secure their independence. Aristide says, you know what? I would like France to pay us $21 billion in reparations for enslaving our country. That did not go over well. In Europe and in the West, that went over like a lead balloon. Of course, the United States and France were like, no, we're not going to do that. The UN voted against it. And then that election year, the US and France and other countries in the West then accused Aristide of doing election fraud. Of course, that happened all under John Bolton and the Bush administration. Also interesting to note was the very well documented role of right-wing paramilitary groups in Haiti that had targeted activists, government officials, and anyone aligned with the Aristide government. Freedom of Information Act documents have shown how paramilitary forces had received support from Haiti's elite, backers of Moïse, of course, as well as sectors of the Dominican military and the government at the time. And by the way, elite Haitians also happen to usually be lighter skinned and aligned with corporations and U.S. interests. Now, according to researcher Jeb Sprague, these groups had contact with the U.S. and French intelligence. U.S. intelligence. Maybe people around John Bolton? Aristide then claims that he had been kidnapped by U.S. troops and flown out of the country and eventually deposited in Africa. And there are witnesses that had come forward to say that he was being escorted by U.S. soldiers from the country at gunpoint. The U.S. says, oh, no, we didn't actually do it. We gave him protection, well, as he left the country. That's what it was. We were protecting him, not escorting him out and backing the rebels at gunpoint. Now, on the rebels, by the way, the Haitian opposition to Aristides was a gang that was at first literally named the Cannibal Army. That was allegedly getting U.S. and French support. The Cannibal Army. Now, it was quickly renamed by the brother of the former leader who was found murdered. By the way, that brother blamed Aristides for his death. The National Revolutionary Front for the Liberation of Haiti. So they went from the Cannibal Army to the National Revolutionary Front for the Liberation of Haiti. Cannibal Army. Now, look, of course, a lot of people spoke out against this during the time. In fact, you had members of Congress, as well as the Jamaican Prime Minister, expressing concern that it was the United States that was interfering with Haiti's democratic process. Now, that's really important because, again, we're having a conversation about January 6th, right? And that was an attempted coup. And now everybody is like, oh, and rightly so, of course, right? Everybody's like, oh my God, a coup, how could this happen? What a terrible, terrible thing to befall us. But at the same time, the United States has been backing coups all over the world. And that's John Bolton involved in it. Wow. Yeah, so there's a lot of hypocrisy on this. But now, getting back to some of the people who were, speaking out against this, Maxine Waters. Maxine Waters, according to her, she said that Mildred Aristide called her at her home at 6:30 in the morning to inform her that the coup d'etat has been completed. And that John Bertrand Aristide, said the U.S. Embassy in Haiti's chief of staff, came to his house to say that he would be killed, and that a lot of Haitians would be killed if he refused to resign immediately, and said that he has to go now. Representative Charlie Rangel of New York also said something similar, saying that Aristide had told him that he was disappointed that the international community had let him down, and that he was forced to resign under pressure. As a matter of fact, quote, he was very apprehensive for his life. They made it clear that he had to go or he would be killed. So I don't know, maybe that could have been one of the coups that John Bolton was referring to. One of the many, the hundreds of coups that he could be involved in, or that he might have been involved in. So now what's interesting here, or I should say more amazing than anything, is that he can go on TV and admit to helping these coups, orchestrating them, and being a war criminal. Because guess what? Doing coups is also kind of illegal. Yeah. But here in America, we do not punish war criminals. I mean, that's the reason that George W. Bush and Dick Cheney are still walking around. Why Donald Trump is still walking around, at least for a while, after dropping the mother of all bombs in Afghanistan, and by the way, increasing the number of civilians killed by U.S. airstrikes by 330%. Getting people, innocent civilians, killed by taking the gloves off the military. That was Trump. Bolton, of course, serving in the Trump administration at that point. And again, let's not forget about Yemen. Yemen is being devastated because we still are helping the Saudis. We're helping them under Trump. We're still helping them now under Biden. The Saudis are murdering civilians as well. Don't forget about Obama. Obama had the signature drone strikes that were killing American citizens overseas without due process. War crimes. War crimes. And yet these monsters are still allowed to go on TV. And in the case of John Bolton, is able to go and brag about doing the coups and the war crimes. Because nobody ever faces any sort of accountability for doing it.